Hey, Jelger. Um, Thanks a lot for being here with me to reflect a bit together on Make It Rain, a 8-week coaching program that you just participated in and I co-led. And we're here
Mm,
to see a
yeah,
little bit about like the how was it for you, and to get a bit of an idea of the difference it made for you. But before we do that, maybe can you introduce yourself just briefly? Like, who are you? What are you up to?
yeah, thanks. Glad we get to speak again now here. Um, so I'm Jelger, and I design and facilitate spaces for collective learning and research. And I do this partly at University of Amsterdam, where I design and teach a program called Collective Futures. And part of my other time, I work uh, more independently. Uh, Partly in an art collective in which we also do we create uh, location-based works together with also other with collectively, um, often also combined with more educational programs. Um, and yeah, I think that's sort of the summary of what
Yeah,
I do, and I'm very interested in sort of linking different components of change, of transformation, maybe. And for me,
yeah,
then it's important the creative component, sort of creative change, inner change, and also social change. Yeah.
yeah. Awesome. That sounds really, really cool. And I know like a tiny bit about your work, and I'm always like, I would like to get to know more about it, but maybe that's a different conversation we can have sometime.
Mhm. Yeah.
Cool, thanks. So you registered for Make It Rain in October. And when you think back to that moment, was there something that was particularly alive for you in that moment? Something that kind of yeah, made you think, I would like to join a program like this. Like, where were you in that time?
Um, yeah. So um, this followed from me meeting you and Jocelyn at the Micro Solidarity Summer Gathering, and so there was a nice connection. I already felt like a sort of a nice resonance with how you also facilitated the summer camp and the overall vibe and people that I got to meet there. Um, so that made me interested when I heard about this coaching project program that you were running. And I think it also came at a moment for me that, um, yeah, that I feel like I was in this sort of cloud of different new, sort of over the past half year, I feel like different new avenues opened up for me in terms of I've met people and environments that sort of open up different ways of seeing myself, I think, and also myself in relation to work and what I can do. And I think those different avenues formed sort of cloud that I felt like, yeah, exploring and making a bit sense of, clarifying maybe for myself, how do I relate to this cloud? What kind of things feel most important in this for me? And yeah, how how would I like to move forward?
Yeah,
Yeah.
awesome. What I hear in that is like the sense a lot of possibility um, in like the people you met or the relations that emerged or the spaces you got access to, and you were wishing for like some more clarity. Like, okay, what do I do with these possibilities? How do I relate to them, or how do I make the most of
Yeah.
them? Um,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And more specifically, I think that relates to um, sort of really seeing the value of inner work and facilitation and sort of these collective experiences that you also facilitated in the Microsoft Summer Camp. And I'm also exploring with my collective and in my education. And I really see the transformative potential in that. And the question for me is how to link that also to, uh, yeah, social change and different contexts within society. How do you interface maybe sort of a learning bubble with different aspects of society. Yeah, and that's I think very part of my exploration that motivated me to join this
Yeah.
course.
Awesome. Cool. And when you think back to that moment, still, let's stay in the past for a little bit. Were there any like particular challenges you were facing with like kind of turning that cloud of possibility into like clear next steps or a way forward that felt aligned with you, or what yeah, what was the tension you felt maybe also?
Um, I think the tension I felt is feeling a big cloud of possibilities,
Mm,
and relating, I think, to in a relatively short amount of time learning quite a lot of new things, and feeling thereby sort of a need to condense all these things into one thing, into like, oh, I need to make sense of this whole thing, and when I fully understand it, then I can move on somehow.
mm, yeah.
And of course, along the way, I also figured out like, yeah, that full understanding is not necessarily necessary. It's like you can also keep moving and trust that along the way things will reveal themselves. But it was the tension I felt, I
Yeah,
think, between how can I trust moving forward and how can I also trust that the things I'm learning and I've learned will be integrated.
yeah. Awesome. Yeah, what I hear in that is like there was maybe this idea of, I need to figure it out first and then I can move forward. And
Yeah,
it sounds like that shifted a little bit towards like, I can keep figuring it out as I go and I don't like need to make sense of all of the things that I'm faced with before I can start moving towards a vision.
yeah,
Is that,
yeah,
am I hearing that correctly, or?
yeah, yeah, that's correct. Yeah, yeah. So I think that's very much part of the practice. I think in feeling into the energy of possibility
Mm,
and also trusting that that energy will sort of help me move in a direction that's right, not necessarily needing to grasp it all cognitively.
yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm. What becomes possible for you in doing that, in like kind of um, sensing into the energy of possibility and kind of starting to move towards it rather than trying to make sense of it all?
Mm, more play. Yeah. More free play.
Mm,
That's, I think, what I also ended up realizing and mentioning at the final session is sort of that I sort of this big cloud of possibility and opportunity, or sort of no, possibility feels nice in a way, but it feels also quite overwhelming, maybe. And it can also come with a feeling of, in a way, seriousness of like, oh, because in a way I feel like it's serious. It's sort of, yeah, it's figuring out how can you, yeah, what is my way of doing most meaningful contributions?
yeah,
And yeah, that's a sort of a, in a way, maybe a serious question, but it feels like, oh, I really need to make sure that how I think about this is right. And yeah, I wanted to be critical in my own way of thinking and feeling through it. But I figured out that the way through that is through finding playfulness, I think. In playfulness, in finding a starting point and just flowing with that and trusting that my intuition will naturally move me in the right direction.
yeah.
That's
Awesome.
maybe a bit of jumble of words. I don't know, but
Yeah, I mean, what I hear and what you say is like you see a possibility to make a contribution, and because you're the person you are, you want to use it, like you want to make that contribution, and it's important to you to make it in a way that's really meaningful and impactful. Um, so some like kind of tension or nervousness comes up, and like, oh, how do I do it best? And that's like a perfectly normal human reaction to being faced with the opportunity to explore something new or to change in some way. Sounds like you found a really beautiful way to move past that kind of stopping point of being like, oh, what do I do now with it? Through being more playful and like kind of just allowing yourself to explore intuitively as you go along. And yeah, that makes sense to me at least.
Yeah, exactly. And I think this will continue to be a practice that I will keep returning to. Yeah.
Cool. Sweet. That sounds awesome. When you think about Make It Rain in that context, like, what do you remember any like first aha moments of like, ooh, something just shifted, or I found a new way of relating to myself or someone else or my work or the world?
Yeah, I think I'm thinking now back at what you shared during one of the trainings, this transition from visionary reality to physical reality. And that resonated strongly for me because it helped me become more aware of that process and recognize earlier that I'm in that, when I'm in that point of transition. And it made me think of the value of developing a sort of practice of attending to that moment. Because I feel like in that moment, a lot happens often because it's quite a scary moment also in a way, right?
Yeah.
Having all these ideas that can safely exist within an imagination, but then having to translate it to the real world, it's also vulnerable.
Yeah.
And I think that vulnerability, what I became more aware of, sort of has also an emotional impact on me, which can trigger certain behaviors that sometimes are helpful to translate it, but sometimes not so much. They also some behaviors that tend to make me move away from that process. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. And that's, I think, give me more insight. And I think that also relates to the other reason why I joined also the course, because there was this question for me in relating to expressing myself, I think. And I think that relates very much to this making this translation from imaginary reality to physical reality. That sometimes I feel that can be challenging, especially verbally or in written and spoken language. While I do feel it's important to be able to articulate some things clearly, so that's also something that I felt maybe a bit insecure of, and that I wanted to explore, and also to practice basically that through having a regular group sessions and facilitating each other to become more comfortable, I think, with that. So that's another aspect.
Yeah. Nice. Wow, it's so interesting to hear that this is like was one of your intentions for joining, to like practice self-expression and do it in an environment where you feel like that can support that practice.
Yeah.
Cool. And when you like kind of think about or like kind of land in the present moment, we've been talking a bit about the past. If you had to put into words, what's the difference this has made for you? Like how what's different now than in October? Maybe in like even concrete terms, like how what are you doing now that you weren't doing back then?
Yeah, so how to say it most simply? That's the question.
Don't worry about making it simple. You can say it in whichever way feels right for you.
Yeah, okay. I think a lot of things changed in these months. I think quite a lot of things were moving parallel to me doing this course. And I think many things that I've been working on over the past years have found a more concrete expression that's quite special. So for example, the course I'm teaching, I've been doing that for 2 years now, and been sort of in these 2 years moving towards sort of redefining what the course is, finding a new language to speak about it, finding a new name. And between October and now, I was able to do that within the university and to really change the name of the course, create a new website for it to really, yeah, and I feel it really now has a form that feels aligned for me. So yeah, that feels quite nice that it really became more concrete. The things that I think intuitively already were alive in me. The same is also for my the art collective, Shock Forest Group, it's called. I'm working with. It also really made a step of maturation of how we look at ourselves and what we do. And I think that together with doing the course, I feel the course helped me move through that process. And at the same time, also exploring for myself, like, oh, there's also some maybe creative projects that I want to do. Yeah, that alongside these two bigger things that I mentioned. And I found more clarity in that and more joy in starting with that again. More space to start off with.
Cool. Wow, it sounds like big things are happening for you, and like in being able to kind of crystallize this course into a form that feels more right for you in this moment, and moving forward with your art collective.
Yeah, indeed. And what I noticed in the sessions throughout the course, that was often we had a sort of arc during a session where we tuned in certain more an intuitive place together with others, and then at the end tried to formulate some next steps. And I went through that circle a couple of times, and I didn't follow up on all these steps that I defined, but I realized at the end that it was not such a big problem for me because I felt like it helped me, um, yeah, maybe let the sort of the more intuitive, let the things that we did sink in more intuitively. And at the end, I was able to more clearly define some simple next starting point that did feel like, oh yeah, I can just do this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
cool. Nice. I'm glad to hear that. Sweet. Yeah, is there, like, now looking out into the future, is there anything that's coming up for you on the horizon that you're excited about sharing, maybe, or like where you're headed next?
Um, yeah, I look forward to a particular music related project. Yeah, I've been jamming with a friend for a while now, and really at the end of the course now realized, no, I'm just going to plan a first live performance. I don't know when, but somewhere in the next year. That will really help us and me to, yeah, practice to work towards that, and as a using it as a way of really practicing and getting into the world with that. So that feels very nice to, yeah, find that playful place of expression through music also for me, because it's important, I think, for me, and I haven't been in touch with that over the past year so much. And the other thing, um, yeah, it relates to clarifying my love for designing and facilitating learning spaces. Yeah, I've been getting that way more clear how that sort of in that a lot of the things that I've been doing and I feel called to do can be integrated, relating more intuitive, artistic expressions, but also through more emotional ways of navigating group dynamics. Yeah, and yeah, so I think that I look very much forward to continue that and to continue exploring where that practice leads me. Hmm.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
Wow, that makes me really curious. And like, can I experience your facilitation one time? I would really enjoy that, I think. Yeah, to be led by you in a group process.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, well, yeah, nice. Yeah, that's, yeah. Well, yeah. If there's anything, if we would, for example, do something again with this art collective, sort of, I would be happy to invite you if you're around and interested. But
Yeah. Awesome. Is
yeah.
there any way that I or other people can like learn more about the work you do in the world? Yeah.
Yeah, I have a website. It's my name, jelgerkroese.com. So there are some things that I mentioned there, what I do. Um, I think I still need to, I can update it a bit, but it should mention some things that I do. And looking in towards the next period, there is a campaign by the Climate Majority Project, it's called, and they're working on a campaign around climate anxiety. And it's basically around the importance of creating spaces, mainly within also education, where people learn about our climate, which naturally also evokes some anxious responses. But how to create spaces that can also hold the emotional responses that come up with it in order to process those and transform those into well-founded action. And there's I've been to a couple of calls with that organization, and I'm curious where that leads. So I can imagine if that's also, for example, a topic that you or others are interested in. Yeah, you or the interest be supporting or learning from it, we're very welcome, because I think the campaign is quite open-ended and really trying to mobilize a group of people who are interested in this kind of work, and it's quite a nice, very nice group of people to work with, I found so far.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, we can put all of the information about that in the links or in the description of the video below. Cool. Hey, thank you so much for doing this, taking time to chat with me. I really appreciate your openness in sharing and your courage in following what's true for you in the world and like showing up as your full self to making a difference. And yeah, thanks for doing awesome work and being generous with your time.
Yeah, of course. No, thank you so much for the whole course and the facilitation. It was really nice to be part of it. And I think you and Justin just, do really beautiful work. So yeah, glad that I've been part of it. And I look forward to meet again in the future. And
Awesome. Thanks so much. See you soon.
Thank you.
Ciao, ciao.
Yeah, see you.